Welcome, Bronco Nation, to my Boise State alumni in the NFL stat recap for Week 12. After quiet outings the last couple of weeks, Boise State former alumni or Boise State alumni in the NFL had a more productive overall outing this week, even though individual numbers were still low overall. Though starting it off, we had Minnesota Vikings running back Alexander Madison. He had 2 carries for 6 yards to continue on 3 straight weeks where he's failed to go over 20 yards in any of those games. I think he's been under 4 carries in all of those games as well. Really kind of since Dalvin Cook came back from injury, Dalvin Cook has just been the main bell cow there, just getting pretty much all the carries, where before early in the season, Minnesota was kind of splitting the carries between Dalvin Cook and Alexander Madison. So Alexander Madison's definitely taken a back seat. He's still a capable running back. He's not hurt. There isn't anything going on like that. But also Dalvin Cook has just exploded the last few weeks with some very productive matchups. Not so much last week, though they were able to pull off the win. But I think that's just kind of the coaches playing who's got the hot hand right now. And obviously Dalvin Cook, after coming back from injuries, come back very strong. So Alexander Madison, 2 carries, 6 yards, minimal impact, but he's still a primary backup and he's still getting carries, and he's still showing what he can do, and he's going to get an opportunity at some point in his career to be that starter at some team. Green Bay Packers, Billy Wynn, he's going to be our highlighting Bronco, our MVP Bronco of the week. He had a season-high 3 tackles after having a deflection last week for an interception. He's really starting to pick up as far as being an impact player within that Green Bay defense, or maybe not so much an impact player necessarily, but really starting to be a part of that defensive effort, regular part of that defensive effort going forward. So very nice outing for Billy Wynn to follow off the deflection last week with 3 tackles this week. Jacksonville Jaguars linebacker Kamale Correa had 1 tackle, which was great to see after no stats recorded last week. Dallas Cowboys wide receiver Cedric Wilson, he had 1 catch for -1 yards. He was setting up a screen. It wasn't a great game. I mean, I don't know how many of you watched it on that Thanksgiving. Terrible game for Dallas going up against Washington. Really, really, really bad game. There wasn't a lot of opportunities to spread the ball around in that one. So hence Cedric Wilson. And he's really seen his role in the offense go down since Dak Prescott was taken out due to injuries. Now that Andy Dalton is in there, he just doesn't have the awareness right now to look for anyone other than his primary receivers, which are going to be Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, Schultz, and just had a complete brain blank of their number 1 receiver. Well, it doesn't matter. He's not a Boise State alumni. He's a Colorado State alumni. So anyhow, main point is that Boise State, Dallas right now, unable to really find the Cedric Wilson offense. That's okay. Cedric Wilson has shown that he has the capability to perform. I think he's going to be part of that offense, especially that Kellen Moore offense going forward, even if right now in the current setup he's not getting their touches that he needs to, or that he could be otherwise. Defensively, Tyrone Crawford had 1 tackle. DeMarcus Lawrence had 4 tackles, 1 sack, 1 tackle for a loss, and 2 quarterback hits. Again, he's always been that stalwart part, especially on the defensive line. Really the heart and soul of the defense for the Dallas Cowboys there, and he again showed it this week. Linebacker Leighton Vander Esch, 7 tackles, 1 tackle for loss. 3rd on the team in tackles this week after leading them last week. Still a very productive outing for him coming back from injury. Safety Darian Thompson, no stats recorded this week. For the Philadelphia Eagles, wide receiver John Hightower, they just finished their game tonight. He had 1 reception for 1 yard on 1 target. So that doesn't sound like much, but it was a big stat for Hightower, who hadn't recorded a reception in the last 4 games, including this game prior to. And this was his first target since being targeted 3 times for 0 yards against Dallas. So good to see him being back involved in the offense, even if it wasn't for very many yards or only targeted once. At least he's still part of that, which shows that he's performing well in the bye weeks and he in practice, and maybe he'll become more part of that offense going forward again, like he was earlier this season. Tennessee Titans running back Jerry McNichols, he had 8 carries for 20 yards and a long of 6. He was also targeted once but didn't catch the pass. So 8 carries, 20 yards, nice outing for him. Even though he's not the primary backup right now, he is still being mixed into the backfield there. In fact, he had a carry before Foreman did, who is the primary backup right now for Tennessee. So he has shown that he has the ability to perform in that offense, that he has the ability to do well and to be a threat both in the run and the receiving game, or at least to be able to spell McHenry there. So he's doing a great job, especially for a player who had been on the practice squad previously in his career. really stepping up this season. So a nice job again with 8 carries for 20 yards this week. Atlanta Falcons defensive end Durant Miles had no stats recorded. Denver Broncos quarterback Brett Rippon was out due to COVID contact. That was just a hilarious game. If any of you watched the Denver game, they had a wide receiver who had played quarterback in college for Wake Forest freshman and sophomore year, and that was the last time he'd played quarterback. I think 2015 was the last time he'd played quarterback, and they called him in to play quarterback because he was the only player off the practice squad. This is first snaps he's taken in the NFL in any position. He's a wide receiver, but he starts as a quarterback. He's not a Boise State alumni, so I don't know why I'm going into him that much, but it was just a hilarious game to watch. Really, really funny. Unfortunately, Brett Rippon out due to COVID contact. Otherwise, he would have gotten the start in that game because the other quarterbacks were out, and he could have performed much better than the wide receiver ended up doing. But, hopefully Brett Rippon comes off of the COVID tracing. He hasn't shown any symptoms, and he hasn't tested positive. So hopefully he comes back off of that next week and is able to, again, assume those primary backup, if not starting roles, if the starter is still out. San Francisco 49ers cornerback Jamar Taylor, he had 3 tackles again, so he's continuing to be a part of that defense after being signed early in the season, I think it was. But he's continuing to be part of that defense and recording stats on a week-to-week basis, which is great to see for Jamar Taylor. Arizona Cardinals linebacker Tanner Vallejo had 1 tackle. For the offensive line, again, I don't know how to get stats for offensive line, but I just list them if they're on starting rosters, which they are. So offensive tackle Ezra Cleveland for the Vikings, offensive tackle Charles Leno Jr. for the Bears, and center Matt Paradis for the Panthers are all in 53-man lineups this week. Again, highlighting all of this is Billy Wynn, who had 3 tackles, season high. Maybe not the most statistically impressive performance out of all the Broncos this week. I mean, DeMarcus Lawrence, linebacker, Leighton Vander Esch might be competing for most statistically impressive, but it's great to see Billy Wynn having a season high and 3 tackles and being part of that defense going forward. So he's going to be the MVP this week for the Boise State Bronco alumni. All right, thank you so much for watching this video. Every week I have these reviews where I go over all the Boise State alumni and how they did statistically performing. I also release a 3 keys to the game video for all the Boise State football games and a review of that game. And then I also do a top 25 review video. So look for that to come out Tuesday night, Wednesday morning after the rankings are released tomorrow. We'll see if Boise State's in them. I don't anticipate it after the game getting canceled, but we'll review those and how Boise State, it's not just reviewing the rankings, it's more of looking at the top 25 matchups. That's what it is. So make sure to look for that video tomorrow evening or Wednesday morning to know how you should be rooting in all the top 25 matchups this weekend. All right, thank you so much for watching me. Again, make sure you join the Bronco Nation Updates page. We have over 8,000 members. Great place to connect with the Boise State members and the Facebook community there. All right, thank you so much. Go Big Blue.